Halfway done in the Battle of Boroughs. We've got so much action already occurred, but still so much to go. There's been a lot of different surprises and a lot of non-surprises. Monster, Bizzle, and crew clearly showing up there.
Yeah, we knew they would. That's the most decorated and veteran team in the competition. I mean, I said it at the start. Are they going to show up and take the candy away from the babies? And I mean, they're doing it so far in the competition. That last game, though, honestly, the breakaway lead performance, we can review that all day long because it's their biggest game so far in the competition.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of people who are trying to stay close on their tail. I think specifically of the team Low IQ out of Jersey, who must have the best average placement regardless. Guys, since it is the halfway mark, let's take a look and recap how we're here, how we even got to the grand finals in the first place. There was a number of different regional qualifiers to end up fighting in this final grand battle of the Boroughs. There was so many teams who played in that one, and because the regions had different amounts of players, that is how these different regions end up getting their qualifying spots. Regardless, though, we're left with 33 teams, and we're in the midst of these 8 arena custom lobby matches. They're all playing over and over against the same people, and at the end of the day, we will have a winner and a placement for everything because there's so many different teams in this. The first one is the region of the Bronx, the God team. They are showing up today, Monster. That's Gonzo, Cote, and Jared's.
Yeah, and honestly, it really is a matter of the first place teams across all the regions, right? And all the boroughs, New Jersey included, they're really stepping up to the plate. Gonzo, Cote, and Jared's have been doing such a great job this time around. I mean, we saw Spark G and his team, what they call themselves, Taco today, but that's going to be Jericho. Or no, sorry. Spark G's running with Jericho and Mastermind, correct. And I mean, they're fragging up too. They're popping off, all of which are finding their elims when it matters most. But hey, still in the running so far. Here's a look at Brooklyn and Long Island, the team elite.
Yeah, Team Elite is Bizzle's Exo and Jay. They got first in their qualifier with Long Island and Brooklyn, and they're still first today, most likely. But East Side is not staying too far. The surprise to me is Fox and Valor and Cerro. They got third place in their qualifier, but today they're hanging on by a thread, probably in the top 3 still. But for the first 3 games, they were almost in the lead by some decent margin because of their elimination heavy play style.
That is true. They were going neck and neck, but Team Elite finally pulling through. But hey, nonetheless, it's Brooklyn putting up the big lead here for Eastside and Fox, and both representing Brooklyn. Long Island is on top, though, so it's going to be a matter of can they step it up and find a placement they need to catch up to Team Elite.
Yeah, and in this one, this might be the first time we see whoever is in first in their qualifier not necessarily being all the way up, because this is Soul Chase and Invidious in first in QGTM, but it's actually Asian Persuasion, Tiny Jelly, Taken, and Aqua, who definitely have some experience in grand finals formats like this based on their FNCS Duos performance, and they are in the lead in terms of the Queens teams, but they have not yet been able to find their way in multiple consistent games back to back to back. They won the second game, but since then really haven't shined the way that they might have started as.
And it's unfortunate to see them lose that 4th place kind of positioning that they had coming in. Game 3 was a dud for them. Game 4 not really picking up too much either, as we rounded out to New Jersey, and this is the team that is probably the scariest, like you mentioned. It's the New Jersey boys, Dev, Leo, and Ved for Low IQ.
Yeah, and this to me is the most impressive team that I've seen so far in this competition, because like I said, best average placement for sure. They got a first place team against Bizzle and crew from low ground. They got a second place against them as well. Then in the final game there, I think they got 4th place off the back of Ved clutching up by himself, and then another second place too. So that team is rising, but without the elims, that's what's making the difference right now, so heavily valued. And we'll take a look at the scoring, because just to exemplify that right there, first place is 60 points, second is 53, 7 minus that. I mean, that 7-point gap between first and second really makes a difference for the team who's done second place multiple times. And then 5 points per elim, which means 12 eliminations, which is not that uncommon in a trio competition. We're seeing multiple teams hit that in single games is worth first place in and of itself. So very elim focused in this trio competition, and we're clearly seeing that at the top of the leaderboard.
I mean, we're seeing some squads start off crazy. Some trios are really coming off the bat. Zero Valor really being the ones that I want to highlight the most, because starting things up with 6 elims, I mean, they're fragging their way to this prizing right here.
Yeah, and the prizing is significant. $35,000 total, but first place walking away with 7,500 for the trio. That wins. That is significant. Second place, 4,000. Third place, 3,500. And then all the way down to 20th, you're making some cash no matter what. So all these guys are going to try their hardest throughout all 8 games. You know that for sure. And we've seen that because these games have been very difficult from start to finish.
And honestly, you got to give a shout out to the Andbox team for even paying up for the lead ups, right? Coming into this whole kind of thing. We had money being divvied out across the board on the open qualifiers and stuff like that. But here's your overall leaderboards to give you guys an idea of how much of a lead Bizzle, Zexer, and Jape have over in first place. It's 90-point gap on the competition right now.
And just to give you some context on that last game, game 4, they were 7 points behind at the start. Now they're 90 points ahead of Team Low IQ. It was the team I talked about, the placement that they're playing. Now 253 points, but Team Elite starting to lead the way for sure. They might not necessarily close it out in the next one, but they could definitely do just that in the next couple. And then down the leaderboard too, this Trapped, who was in second place after game 2, now falls all the way to 11th, and there's a lot of different teams here in the mix.
I would say the one that's probably confused me the most as far as not really stepping up to is the stable Discord in 17th place there. Yep. We see them, we know these players, they've been around for a while. It's Rox, Janik, and Ader. So to see them not quite really stepping up, being in 17th place, fizzled out, you think in this kind of setting this would be where they could really shine the most and step up and you know, kind of prove their expertise in the space.
Yeah, 100%. So looking forward to game 5. There's a couple teams who clearly still need to maybe try to fix a couple different errors, because number one, I think of the team who was in 3rd place the last time we looked at, that's Valor and Crew. They ended up finally losing some steam in those mid-game fights. They lost one at Weeping Woods. You remember that battle between them and a couple of different other teams. They were pinched between 2 sides, and because of that, they went into the end game 1 man down. That's this team right here, Foxen and Crew. They got 6 elims off spawn, but after that, they started to fizzle out of their pace to get 10 elims game after game.
Yeah, and it was Sarah who fell down by Weeping Woods, really losing out on that. One player is so clutch, it's so massive, especially when you don't have the mythic loadout for that crazy mobility like the grappler or the shockwave. You know, you only really see the teams with those be able to clutch up towards the tail end. So being able to lose that, I mean, shows you how quick things can swing out of your favor. Now they're losing that momentum, like we mentioned here. But your final moments from Bizzle, Jaith, and Zexro, even with the man down here, Zexro gets a little over ambitious in the lower kind of box fights, but Bizzle makes it happen here. There was several threats and distractions. They jump out, and the nice pinches here is really what allows them to seal the deal and continue to frag out and pick up elims in the last final moments.
And let's talk about this for a second, because 10 elims for Bizzle is not something that you see every day, but he's done multiple game-ending elims. And don't forget that this team has won 2 games, by the way. They won game 1 and now winning game 4. They've got 2 out of the 4 games we played and looking for more, because even in game 3, there was potential for them to win that one too, but they got a nice coordinated strike from Team Low IQ to end up costing them that one. But time goes on. We still got 4 more to go. I'm honestly thinking that they might win 2 more.
I mean, and think about it. Game 2, they would have won as well. They had the grappler and the shockwave. So
True.
4 games with 4 win conditions, 2 of which they closed out on, and the other they got a 2nd place. So yeah, it's the Bizzle, Zexo, and Jaith party right now for sure.
That it is. I'm thinking for Team Low IQ, the fact that they're doing what they're doing without any of the mythic items, by the way, obviously I'm very impressed with them. I've already said that, but they got to try to find themselves some better setup out of the early and mid game where they can at least get themselves mobility, get themselves some power weapons, maybe find a Marauder pack for some RPGs, because then they could be set up to have these high elimination impact games rather than just relying on the consistency. If they want to win this tournament, that's what they got to do. Otherwise, they might be coasting to a 2nd place that they won't be able to catch up against Bizzle and Crew at all.
I mean, we saw the team, the God team from the Bronx, Baby Gonza, do it. They found the pack of Marauders. We're running that double RPG strat on the mountain, really targeting those builds. The 2 explosions are hard to dodge, and they're near guaranteed open frags to kind of kick things off for yourself. So it's a matter of building out the loadout, finding what you can find, and then rounding it and playing it into the end game.
Yeah, and then there's a slew of other teams. It's not just one or two that I'm going to point out, but still, Blue T, Roat, and Crew not yet finding their footing. Yes, they have success now at the Authority. Yes, they probably even have pushed this team out because they've won every single time, but they've got to be able to convert on that. Their first game obviously lost the way that they had to fight against Gonzo and Crew at Lazy Lake, completely dominated. Second game, they go over to the Authority, a little bit of a rough start, but then game 3 and 4, it's a solid start. They wipe that team completely, get the vault, but then they end up falling in a mid-game fight. That's not what you want to see from those guys.
Yeah, even with the little bits of strides and great defense that we saw in that last game, they are fizzling out. I'm not sure if it's the grappler plays, the split ups, or the lack of synergy between the squad right now, but something needs to come together if they want to really glue it all in and make their final strides to end game. We saw the point placement threshold, how crucial that can be. It's 7-point strides as your first show ends. That's like 1.5 elans worth. So the frags are more important, but still placement is equally important when you couple it all together.
Yeah, and talking about placement for a second, there's one team that is kind of in the middle of both of those things. It's the God team, right? We've been hyping them up all this time, Gonzo and Crew, the way they're playing out of Lazy Lake and then converting it into a couple mid-game E-libs and then taking in the end game. But in end game, besides that one where they ended up finding, that was game 2, right? Where they ended up finding Tiny Jelly and Crew up on high ground in the final moments where they really couldn't convert on that game. They're not ending up in end game positions where they're able to do what Bizzle and Crew are doing, which is a lot of elims, which I think right now they're going to need to do. We know they can do it because that's what they did in their qualifier, but going forward, without Caddy's loot, which is what they had in the qualifiers, how do they find themselves what they need? You talked about the double RPG being there for them, but still in that last game, I didn't see them.
Yeah, and that's the upsetting part, right? When you have such a strong qualifier, you go where you're back-to-back victory royales, you're really popping off, you come in with all this confidence, and then you're one of the teams that can do it, but you're not doing it. Instead, you're watching your peers do it. Players like, Zexro and them are obviously stepping up to the plate. They've been very bullish on the caddy corners drop spot, and it's working. I think the play is, you might just have to go toe-to-toe with them in this back path. It might look like full-on grief mode, but if you come out on top, your chances at victory are so much higher.
Oh, for a team that's in the top 3, top 4, then they're fighting against another team who's in that top 3. That could definitely be a significant development, but we'll have to see. We do have game number 5. We got 4 left to go, and these are the teams at the top on all sides. We've got all the different boroughs representing at the top slots. We got Bizzle on the top left, New Jersey of Dev and Ved. Brooklyn as well, landing at Pleasant Park, and then the Bronx at Lazy Lake. It's like we had the neighborhoods in the Fortnite world itself.
Basically, it's kind of all unfolding here. Queens, where you're at, step it up. Let's go. You're the only one missing from the equation right now. But anyways, it's looking pretty good right here. Bizzle, this is the draw spot that we just talked about. If someone wants to dethrone this squad at this point, they really are going to have to land on them. Talk about a team that needs to continue to wrap up their fights early. It's Blue T who found someone in the feed immediately off the drop spot right there. And that means Authority is going in their favor as well right now.
And this is the first time that we're actually seeing Caddy Corner unfold for them. And at first they were contested, but quickly they pushed that side off, realizing, oh, it's Nexro, Bizzle, and Jade. Yeah, no chance that we're going to continue to fight this game after game. There was a team who landed Weather Station, is landing Weather Station, a split up there, which we've seen work in trios. But when you have the team uncontested at Caddy, they're not going to get the time to actually farm this out. I mean, to come on them when they're still farming is what I'm basically trying to say, right? So instantly gonna find Kit, instantly gonna get in that vault, and instantly gonna leave right on top of Lazy Lake, and from there they get the space to do. So the Weather Station drop does not actually work in their favor if they want to actually contest in the caddy, though they do get left with the loot that's staying in the vault. But even as a trio, there's still almost nothing left in that vault when all is said and done.
Yeah, the real counter is the weather drop when there's a team contesting, because the time it takes to finish up a battle gives the squad that's on the weather station the time to really rotate in and take advantage of the distraction, the lack of material and stuff like that. But like you said, having all of it to themselves, the speed at which they can wrap it up is a lot faster. Lazy Lakes, though, being contested by a squad this time that try to mix things up, and it's not going to work out at all as Gonzo, Jareds, and Akote start their stride off. 3 eliminations. Pretty nice, considering Lazy was given or granted to them in the previous game. They had that wide split. Love that they recognize that it's contested and they go back to their plan drop together and execute.
So well done from these guys. That's 3 off-spawn fights that they've won. One of those got it, like you were referring to, completely free, where they had that massive split going on. They've also fought 3 different teams, essentially. I think there was one time where they had that uncontested split going on, and then another team pushed in, and then the next game that team landed on them. This time it was completely different. And you kind of see how Lazy ends up being the recipient of a lot of different random teams dropping on you just because people think that they're comfortable there throughout all the games, but they don't have the drop prepared and they end up losing very quickly. Another one like that is Holly Hedges. We saw Starving Joe and Redux all move over here in the last game and end up winning the fight, and they start off strong again, potentially could win. Yes, 2 down in quick succession. And only 1 left to find, I think. Where is he? I don't even see him. Oh, there he is, all the way down. Not even in the fight at all. Not even able to contest with anything, and no materials even to build. Another off-spawn win for them, but still that has not been converting into a spot that they're happy with. Back in the Authority, Blue T and them are completely crushing since they've moved here. Togdo and Bean have had no chance.
Yeah, Blue T did get the first elim of game 4. Or game 5 right here, and now here comes a shakedown to really just put the icing on the cake for wherever Bean is trying to hide here. They're not going to let him get away. He can't get away, honestly, with this grappler right here. No shield, possibly no material, considering he's building on his last bits of metal here. And now it's time to pressure on and close out. Full box up, though, from Bean as he's waiting. He's got to be cautious, though. The fire or the noise they make here by Risky is going to be important. I love what Blue T's doing right now. He's going to scout it instead of taking the fight. This is the threat I was just talking about. And he's already putting in defensive measures for the squad to roll up and finish up the solo while he's holding back the Risky squad.
This is so perfect. They also have the drop that they're able to grab. That's the whole point that Blue T went up here to make sure he control, but they might actually engage on this, though. I'm worried about the match situation right now because Blue T has nothing. He's gonna have to stay up on that spot where he's at until this goes all the way fully to full fights. It will be on the backside, 50-50 from Guardy, but Road is there. Takes a trade, has to heal up now. Blue T is on top of this. Should be an easy fight, an easy cleanup for them if they're careful.
Someone is based up underneath Blue T, so he's have to sit on top of them, and this guy's going into the battle, so now Blue T is going to commit inwards. SMG pushing his way through the box, looking for the boost in, though. He's not going to find it. No material, though, like we said. There's not much he can do here outside of just retreat with the grappler, and easy for him to get right back onto height. Reppin's going to fall now, so Bugsv is going to find the knock that he needs. It's still important to get the conversion as he needs to get the full heal. 1 mini's going to be popped off. There goes the Siphon, and the rest of the materials are his now. Let's see how it's going to continue to play out. Elims after Elims, though, for the squad right here. Guardy's going to fall as well. The knock in the conclusion. There's still some players left, though. It's not all over just yet.
What a start from Blue T Roet and Bugsv. Like you said, though, Markowski on the backside of this. They could still chase him down. Accidental grenade. Was trying to chug splash instead. We'll get it up. And I think they don't really need to worry about that extra player. Although I think they're starting to realize that they should be in a better position than they are, given the ease that they have in these fights. Time and time again, especially pushing in not only at the Authority, but now Risky and cleaning that up without pretty much any damage. This is the point in time where things might shift in the lobby, where a lot of the higher end teams realize that it's not necessarily as difficult as they might be used to, and they can start W keying a little.
Nice little position set up here. It's only 2 players. Taco TV, this Fable squad here. Before I was confused because I saw there's a Spark NA and a Spark G in this competition, so for a second there I was giving some credits to Spark G when it was Spark NA who was doing some serious plays. It's all good. Got that sorted out. All right, they're gonna give it up. They're not aware that they're down a player, which is gonna be Spark, like I mentioned. So instead, they're gonna go on and retreat, get their farm on, and play for the outskirts here. Zone is favoring the northern portions of the zone or the map here. So players like Bizzle, anyone in those lazy lake portions, and other players down in the southern half of the map are gonna have a full-on rotate to make. Inside's gonna be up here.
I think the note about this team is we talk about how basically all the teams out of the qualifiers are playing well and staying at the top. This is the one team that has not quite done and find the success that they did in the qualifier, because like you said, they won 2 out of the 3 games coming out of Queens, but today they are in 32nd, second to last. They've only found themselves 1 elim, no placement points whatsoever. So a stark difference from them. They're feeling the pressure, unfortunately. Hopefully they took that little player break in the middle of all these games to recoup and realize that they could still put themselves at the top of the leaderboard when all is said and done. Maybe not catching up against Bizzle and crew, but can get that significant prizing chunk, because there's still 4 games. A lot can change from now and then.
Not only that, in the qualifiers, they were the first team to break a 20 bomb, so they really were on fire for the Queens region. Queens having no presence amongst the best of the best right now, though, here at the Battle of the Boroughs. One thing I do love about this whole thing is that all the teams are seeing the build, they're composed of players in their area, so full-on friendships possibly being made here, and that's what we love about what Andbox is bringing together, this whole regional tournament style.
It also like makes these teams be slightly more dynamic with the way that they're playing, right? Because they're unknown quantities, and maybe some of these guys have only played for the 2 weeks of the qualifiers leading up to the grand finals, so forced in some cases to meet new players if they want to compete in this tournament, which seems to work out quite well. A lot of stuff unfolding in the feed, though. We'll get back to the game slightly as the team who switched over the Holly Hedges again falls. That's Team Starving X Oxygen. And we do have a northwestern zone. This is Pleasant Park and area, which might mean that Valor and crew have a chance in this game to do what they always do, start off strong and Pleasant, and then also have easy position where they don't have to rotate in places like Weeping Woods.
Something interesting that's unfolding as the teams are rotating early and now find themselves on top of one another, but Bugsy, Bluesy, and Roat don't want a piece of this. They did find another full squad, though, already converted on, so 6 elims for them. They're turning on the gas pedal right now with the mid-game frags. They're so spread out, though. Roat is isolated off by himself. There's a knock in the water up there, though. It looks like Roat's trying to get a piece of that action. Little does he know, there's a little bit of a pinch he's putting himself in, and yes, it's the other squad that's on the coast here. Blue T now coming through to back him up, and oh my gosh, it's Cero, Fox, and Valor who are under pressure. So the knock, Rez was picked up. It was Valor who got dropped there, and Valor's already saved. They're trying to heal him. That revive might just work in their favor, because I think Blue T is going to be able to collapse in here. If they find this, that'll be 9 eliminations for the crew. But no, the other team that's on the coast is getting a little too close for comfort, so they're going to back up now and play for positioning instead. Not looking to be too risky here in the mid game.
I think they realized that that revive did happen, so they're like, okay, they might have something to fight back with. But as they make it off the coast and as they realize that there's still pot shots able to be taken, it could swing things back to them fighting into this. Blue Team's going to get even closer, blocking from the backside. Now there's shots on them as they're in the water, but no, they don't connect, and they're all back at full HP. They base up on the side so they can't be fought from the actual mainland island, and they catch them in the water again if they pressure. This could go bad for the other side.
They have enough resources to do so as well. It's just a matter of looking for those opening shots here. Like we said, though, this trio has managed to bounce back health-wise. It's not looking too hot, though, for Blue Tea, and the resource count already has blown through about half of his reserves here. Lucky for him, he is going to be able to find some to bounce back just a little bit. Roat still putting pressure on that squad. You got to think that squad's really low as well, with how much building they've done, the basing. we'll keep a close eye on them. See if Cero, Valor, and Foxen can bounce back. Remember, they have been having such a consistent run. Zextra is going to find Spark G in the feed, though. Already finding those mid-game frags.
Yeah, potential for them to really start rolling. If they continue to find, maybe they're in a full fight. Meanwhile, we're still watching this north side of the map because that's where Fox and Cero and them. I'm surprised to see them so far north, given the fact that they land in Pleasant. I would have expected them to have a little bit more central position up on the north side of these, the suburbs of Pleasant Park, in a sense. Taco and crew are in some trouble, and they don't have their third member, and they're getting W keyed by the W key lords themselves with a couple of stinks as well. They could find their position, force them back, and even with some nades in play, they could end up winning this fight. And they need to, because they need an impact, but they can't force them to waste all their mats. Otherwise, this impact is for naught.
Good loadout still, though, for Foxen, even amidst all the chaos, the drops, and the running away they've been doing so far. Plenty of grenades and stuff. They can make some big plays here. He's looking to kind of crack open this build right now. Little does he know, the squad's already backed off, though. They're in the house just past here. And yeah, now seeing the tunnel, the full tarp, they realize he's noticing now. They're a lot further than what they thought. Crash pad is in the inventory, though. They're ready to get into the box. This wooden build here makes it easy for them to push on through, and that's what they're doing. Desperate running. Fox and Valor and Cero complete with the push now. I love that Foxen's doing the lead off as well. And behind them is Cero and Valor with their charges fully loaded up here to push on in. He's got the tactical too for the tack attack. The good marker here too. Remember, he's got some nades, or just one now, but it's enough to open up. You can put one inside the base.
That's actually crazy. He's still on that fight. Meanwhile, on the northeast side of this, Zexro and Bizzle. No Jaith in sight, but with the shockwave launcher, he's probably just split up from the team for the time being. But that might be a sign that they end up going down. But based on their position in the leaderboard right now, I don't even think they care. I think they just want to do what they can. Another fine Jericho in the bush, though. They've got to be careful. Zexro does box it up, so safety is had. There's Jaith in the backside, finally getting into this fight as well.
One man down here, still holding him hostage so that Bizzle can fully heal and then get the proper amount of siphon off of it. Finally, now the conversion happens. 9 peppers for Zexro, and that's the hidden benefit of Caddy's Corners. All the, resources that you can pick up there.
Got that restaurant basically that's
seriously
free on the consumables. You've seen them every single game having 9 or 10 peppers. They don't even necessarily use them all the way, but in the end game, those are underrated as a tool, especially if you can try to pop all of them for all 3 trio members. They've essentially got 3, let's say, they've got the full end game on peppers if they do use them. Those will last that entire time, but can throw you off if you end up in box fights just because of the sheer speed that you don't normally play with. Shark can play. The thing about trios, though, is that you can fire those down to make sure they're really not a big threat to you. As a squad, it just takes one clip to knock it all off, compared to solos where there's no chance of you taking it out. Otherwise, you're gonna get focused.
Yep. And before the squad adjustment comes and they come in with more health to balance it out. Oh man, it's just comedy watching the clips unfold, especially the tournament clips when it really matters and you have a full-on shark coming into your base. Here now though, Foxen trying to get his grips back going. They don't have a lot of resource. They were looking, really dependent, honestly, probably dependent on the frag. It seems like they didn't find it because they're still at 3 eliminations, so that team was just slippery enough, evasive enough to back them off.
Yeah. But what they did do is they gained control of the house now, which is basically refarming all the wood at least. I don't know how much they needed, but at least they have that. The zone is going to be moving though, and most of the teams have already gotten out of that northwest corner. Thankfully for them, there's some elevation that they don't have to worry too much about it. Speaking of elevation, it's Gonzo, Jared's, and Akote who hold on to it in the southwest corner. of this zone, so potential for them to grab 5th, though they see a threat. That's Chase, Invidious, and Soul, a team who has not yet found success, but hopefully in this second half they'll switch things around.
Harris gets beamed here. He's gonna have to pop his chug splash soon. Let's take a look. It's almost half in and half out time. 30 seconds till that shows off, and we have a storm surge happening here. 5 players above the storm surge threshold. This squad is not gonna have to worry about it. 5 elims for Jared, Zakote, and Gonzo, and they're looking to pick up more as they're putting pressure down. There goes Invidious. Is gonna carry on over. See Cero still alive. They are gonna safely make their way to zone here. Roat's gonna find Wacky in the field, and that means the authority crew, Blue T, Roat, Bugsy is still picking up, still cooking up here in the mid game, approaching this end game now. Just according to the zone, though, this is gonna work out for the majority of the lobby here. Garrett finds his seconds, and he's gonna be okay to pop Chug Jug.
You catch zone, it goes in the southwestern corner like we talked about. Fox and Cero and crew have made it in. Surge is now active, taking on a couple of different teams. Hopefully it's just either 1 or 2, but one player does need to go down, and it might happen very quickly here as Gonzo and them are focusing with a whole other squad. It's Chase and Soul on the Valor and Cero, and these guys are still hanging on to 3rd place, but at the same time, while this is all happening, Roat found a snipe, I believe, on Okote, and Blue T will glider gun right on top of Height. They're going to pressure this, try to find the finish on this elim, but if not, they still have Height at least to show for it.
And it's Brooklyn on top now, collapsing on the Bronx trio here, and Okote is going to fall there as Bugsby gets in the box of Baby Gonzo. Roat jumps on Okote, and Blue T finds Jared, so each of which found their own individual frags. That is absolutely massive for the Brooklyn trio as they now own high ground with the grappler. So a lot going for them, and that's a massive frag. Like, let's talk about it. Baby Gonzo had loot. It's not like they were a shambles team by any means. Okote, Jared's, they were pretty looted. They were kitted up.
That they were. They had Height too. They just over peak, and unfortunately that's the end of all of them as Blue T pounces. They were also in 4th place, may I remind you. Thankfully they got at least, you know, a win's worth of elims in terms of points, so they're chilling on that front, but still it could have been potential for so much more. Meanwhile, that gives the room for the 2 teams who are still alive, which is Bizzle's crew and also Ved's crew in low IQ, who will potentially really rise up in the points. Bugsby, Roat, and Blue T, this is the first time we really see them maintain Height, but for now, because you know there's a shockwave launcher still in play.
Let me remind you, Cero, when we just saw his perspective there, had 0 material, 0 builds. They were already in struggles before, still haven't found what they needed as far as a frag goes. So for them to find the next moving is going to work in their favor. I am really curious to see if they're going to be able to bounce back. I see Jaith in the mix there, though. For a second, his name popped up. Yes, Sexro as well. So they cut ahead of the zone to choke out Bugsy, Blue T, and Roat for the next high ground hold here. And now the launch pad comes out. Bugsy with the choke on the ramp on an accident there. It's time to get back to the zone here. He needs to find his squad mates, though, amongst all the chaos here. Where are they? Can he isolate his way to them now? Not sure, but he's just playing for himself here. 5 elims for Bugsby. He is looking strong, holding strong here in the mid ground.
I love what Bizzle and them did on that high ground take, by the way. They're just using the shockwave launcher as a distraction, and Bizzle, Zexro, and them will split launch up ahead and take Height from there. Well, they all focus on that shockwave launcher. They did group up Blue T and Bugsby, like you talked about them necessarily needing to do. Roat is in there as well. They found themselves, and now they need to find themselves some elims, and they do onto Cero. That's a big one to find, because again, in 3rd place is that team, and like I said, Eastside is starting to rise up. They were 6th place before this game, but with the amount of elims they have now, it could potentially put them up in the top 3 at the end of this. Nice shot by Zexro. And still players in the backside, they'll beam him down. They've got to be careful. They can't get too far away from this. Jaith and Bizzle still holding on, but they're not able to pressure away from the player who is firing upon Zexro.
High ground is his, though. 6 shockwave launches as well, so he's looking really good here. No medium bullets for the trio, though. They're not looking too hot in that department, so they can't put as much pressure down as they probably like. they are going to need to get into the thick of it if they want to bounce back sometime soon. Another team that's made it to endgame again is these Taco boys. They are holding it down over at Team Fable. You got to appreciate people that can at least play for endgame. I see Soul down there. Azers is as well, finally making his way to endgame. Someone that we wanted to see kind of step it up in the competition. I'm watching Roat tear up the feed though. So Roat, that crew right there, finding so many frags, is honestly killing it. Bugsby with 7 now, and they are literally looking to take their way and close that gap up from Bizzle and crew on Hyatt.
13 eliminations is what they're at right now, and still potentially gonna rise even further. They have the mats to play with, although the split might start to expend it, but still leaving a launch pad if they want to bring this forward. 9 teams still left, Monster. We're about to go into the final zone with 20 players potentially still up in this. Jayth, Zexro, and Bizzle are gonna try to change that though, and they do start off with Bizzle getting another elim. And they're at 6 of their own, but not quite the 17 that they got in the last game where they won. But there, Zexro gets another one too. There's still potential to still do exactly just that.
Absolutely. This is a straight up stacked end game. 17 players still in the game. Someone's gonna go for Hyatt. It's Blue Team who tries to do something super sneaky with the grappler and a launch pad from the squad in the back. And they actually take Hyatt from Bizzle, Zexro, and Jayth. And now it's a battle for Hyatt. A battle for supremacy here. Who's gonna come out on top? And it is the power trio, the first place team. They find Bugsy there. And now Roat boxed up. He runs. He's out of the running here. Was it worth it trying to go for Hyatt? They're playing for first place. And just like that, Roat is now by himself down into the low ground. Matter of, can he just find placements at this point? 4 teams remaining. Still, remember, the gap here now is 7 points. As the team falls, you will gain a fair, hefty amount of placement. Roat's gonna find Tights in a feed there too. And that's another placement point and elim fall for him.
And that means there's still 2 players left. Agers and Janik are in the team, and they're gonna fight against Jayth and them. It's potential for Roat all of a sudden as a solo to actually win this because nobody's paying attention to them. But all of a sudden, Bizzle and them are gonna run out of materials. He dives in the box. Janik gets put down, and Jayth is all the way up on height. They knock Agers down potentially. Spray, pressure. But now down below is still Roat also doing it as well. He takes out Zexro. Bizzle left by himself. And now it's Agers against Roat, and they're still up 1v1, and Roat will win because Agers goes down to zone. So the solo against 2 and against 3 will win again. And then this time it was actually Bizzle and them ending up in 3rd. So close to a win, but when it all comes down to it, the 3 really pro teams in this case all come out in the 1 versus 1 versus 1. What a game, Monster. What a game.
Man, Agers really played spoiler that time around for the elite trio, and he did a good job too. He actually found the frags when he found Jayth, traded out Zexro, tagged down Bizzle. Like, he was putting in all the work where it needed. Roat just cruised his way to victory, being just slippery enough to get all the way down to the end, into those final moments. And remember, he didn't even have a lot of white heals, so it was a matter of, literally a ticking time bomb for all of those guys in the final moments.
And that is basically a recipe for disaster for a team who relies on just basically nobody pressuring them, because that's what they're good at, is asserting dominance on the lobby when they're in that high ground position, right? Where they're able to split off to the sides and spray down on everybody. In this case, 2 of the best teams in this lobby pressure them once at the start, which was Roat and Blue Team crew with the glider gun and the launch pad combination. And then Janik and Rox and Agers come from basically out of nowhere, a surprise to everybody who was watching that game, and do it again to them. They run out of mats, they run out of steam, and that's the game.
You got to give some credit to Bizzle, Zexro, and Jayth though. Another win condition in front of them. It could have been 5 games in a row. Really think about it, how consistent they've been so far. Phenomenal performances across the board.
100%, and that will push them up, because again, there wasn't actually those teams who were actually fighting against them. Teams like Gonzo and crew ended up falling off a height. Teams like Valor and crew, who were nowhere to be found in the end game because they fell in 5th place. We got 3 more games to find out who will be the winner of the Battle of Boroughs. Stay with us. An all-out brawl for this state, for the state of New York, for the city of New York, and all the boroughs. Everybody's fighting for that top spot, but really, can anybody actually catch up to the dust that's been kicked up and left everybody behind? Zexro, Bizzle, and Jay, there's 100% still on top after what was a crazy game number 5, Monster.
Yeah, I mean, the dominant performance season, this entire season has been the talk of Caddy's Corner. I feel like for a moment there, it was looking like, you know, they had it locked in the bag, and then things slipped out of their grasp. But regardless of what, the consistency across the board, this is one of the more exciting fights that we've seen break out. Like you said, the 3 best trios in the final moments there, going toe to toe in the competition. This is, you know, interesting turn of events for the team up top.
Yeah, it's essentially like a new challenger has entered the field. Roat, Blue Tea, and Bugsby have finally found some footing, and we get to see the final moments from Roat's perspective, which we did not get to see in that other game. He's chilling down on low ground while Janik, Agers, and Rocks have now all of a sudden gone to fight against Zexro and crew. Jayth even falls and gives Roat some credit because he went down in the zone, and then he has the RPG to pounce to the last moments, fire up upon everybody else, and there's just pure chaos as Agers falls down, takes some fall damage, and then falls to zone. Well executed from Roats. And look at that. 16 eliminations from that crew. They started rolling in the last game with a couple of eliminations, but now add the win to that too. They've pushed themselves up at least 120 points in one game.
Yeah, it's a 3-game hot streak right there for them right now. Really starting to cook up, get their momentum going, as we know they can. That's the Brooklyn trio, East Side, really stepping up to the plate. So when the leaderboards are ready, we'll see what that big point game is going to do for them right now, and how far along it's going to push their agenda for first place right now. In a big surprise too, a big surprise fashion, because they were just all of a sudden dominating, and then making real aggressive plays too, going for height. Once again, we see a squad just decide, you know what, we want height, and they try and take it away from the team that's holding it up. And I mean, it didn't work out necessarily, but in the end, it all came together.
It works, man. It works. Hey, it doesn't necessarily have to be pretty as long as it gets the job done. I think it may be a little bit lucky in the sense that they didn't necessarily know that Agers and Rocks would follow up with another height take to pretty much ruin the game for Bizzle and crew, but hey, they ended up falling down to low ground. They didn't actually want height in that case. Another surprise to me was, what's that team's name? God Team, which was Gonzo, Okote, and Jared's, had height, and they had a good start on the game. And unfortunately, when they lost to Blue Tea and crew, who took height from them, they fall all the way down to 6th place. But here's the leaderboard, and you could see still in the lead, Zexor and crew, but again, a new challenger. It's East Side, it's Blue Tea, Roat, and Bugsby. They rise to 2nd place with 318 points, and they've actually made this gap slightly tenable for them with the 3 games left.
That is true. And I mean, considering how far before they weren't in the discussion, they weren't really in the topic for top 2. That was a monstrous game to throw them up and now put themselves in contention to at least give the elite team from Long Island a run for their money. I mean, all it takes is for them to fall out of it one time, right? One early game death, and it's over. Your momentum, your lead, that gap that you built up, it's all gone. It gets taken away.
Yeah, and there's a couple different names here. Even on that first page, you saw Low IQ, which was the team with the best average placement. They weren't there in that end game the first time. I think I saw them outside of top 5. I don't know where they ended, but they end up falling all the way to 6. Unfortunate for them. On the other side of this, Asian Persuasion, who was up at the top of the leaderboard at the beginning of this, that's Tiny Jelly taking an Aqua, start to run into some difficulties mid-game too, all the way down to 13. You see Strong Island, who was up at the top earlier on, which is Mossby and crew, start to rise up a little bit from the fall that they had in the first half of this there. So still, we've got a couple more games to play and a couple more opportunities for teams like this to find some footing. And like I said, the pricing does get significantly higher as we approach that top 10 for these teams. So one game is all it takes, Monster.
Yeah, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars in pricing. And, you know, last week we emphasized what that could mean in the qualifiers, what that means in the grand finals. Guys, these are big upgrades, right? You're talking PC kind of, you know, parts that you can put into dual PC setups you can really lead out coming out of this. So shout out to Andbox putting on something for the region, right? The entire East Coast. They do nothing but support the East Coasters, and we got to appreciate that, man, because this is a big opportunity for a lot of these up and comers. We're talking semi-pros, right? It's not just your elite pros in here. Of course, we do have a nice little sprinkle right on top, and they're doing their thing right now. But for what it's worth, this is a big opportunity for all the competitors.
And again, still, that top spot is not necessarily out of range. I think this game right here will be the one that solidifies it, because if nobody can catch and shorten that gap or make it less than 100 points, it might be over. It's almost impossible to catch up to somebody who's 200 points ahead with only 2 games left. So this game right here will be the chance for Bizzle and crew to solidify, and any other teams to actually challenge. So we need another big game from Bugsby and crew. We need another big game from Valor, Cero, and Foxen, who we haven't seen in these last couple. They ended up falling in 5th zone with only the 3 elims that they came out of Pleasant Park. So again, still up for grabs, but regardless, if that top spot is not taken, there's still the other spots, which are thousands of dollars, just like you said.
Yeah, not only that, it was unfortunate to see Fox and Valor and Cero struggle with no material and really try to stay in it for so long, and then to fall shy before the placement points are even given out. So, falling just before top 20, that kind of sucks. And not only that, they were on the struggle bus all the way through. We saw them really looking for the frag. And even while they were hunting, they couldn't find it. They couldn't get what they needed. So no material. There's no end game if you ain't got the material.
That's for sure. And basically looking forward now, I mean, we've got a clear picture of who might be coming away with this. And when I think back to other regional tournaments, this is basically one of the first of its kind in a long time. We had the Microsoft event all the way back to 2018, and you know who was at the top of that at the end of it? That was more or less the whole of the states fighting for the spot in the regional battles, but here it's just New York. So it was Bizzle who won the Microsoft event with his teammates and Team Ghost, and guess what? He's doing it again in another regional battle, and this time it's New York only, so he gets to claim essentially King of New York with Zexro and his teammate.
And Jersey, right? Listen, Jersey, we got you guys. We know if Jersey comes out on top, Jersey's in this, Balla. Remember that little island over to forget about it.
Okay. I mean, speaking of Jersey, that low IQ team was 6th place in the last time we checked the leaderboard. They were up there, man. They were playing consistently. The issue is this last game they fell finally, and they might start to revert maybe to an average, but also potentially that average is higher than what happened in that last game. Potentially that average is in the top 3 every single game, because that's what it was before this, right? They placed second once, second 3 times, I think, and won the other one, and then a 5th place clutch as well. That's ridiculous stuff from them. They could continue to do that.
Yeah, that's some phenomenal placing right there. And what they're lacking is the frags, though. And it's kind of crazy to think that a team like Fox and Cero and Valor are at the top still in top 5, and they're basically living off of their Pleasant Park early game frags, because they're not finding the end games. They're just getting consistent 30 points plus just off of dropping players off their drop spot. So if the other squads, if the low IQ team can kind of make a twist in their gameplay, turn up, they're going to find themselves making way more. The same thing for Eastside. Eastside's doing it right now. They have to hold it through, because you're on a 3-game hot streak. They ride that momentum. They could be on a tidal wave in to the final moments.
They might have found a formula that really works for them, though. Don't forget, like, not only did they win the authority fight decisively again, they were literally pushing them out within the first, 2 minutes of the game. They were literally chasing them over the walls of the authority, but then they pounced on that risky reels team, which was another easy fight for them too. So potentially they've identified 2 easy full trio wipes that will grant them 6 eliminations starting at the beginning of the game, and basically 2 POIs worth. I mean, call authority 1 POI. I know it's probably 2 or 3 worth of itself, and then pushing into risky reels too and grabbing that other one. That is definitely a recipe for success for those guys.
And the setup, let's talk about the setup. The grappler from Blue Sea to take the billboard, you're virtually untouchable once he's up there. He's got the positioning, he's poised up, he's defensively ready to kind of block them out from targeting his teammates, and then they come in, they pinch them down. So, and they did that with limited material. Think about that. Blue Sea didn't even have builds. He just went up there with enough to box up, and that was enough to completely shut down a squad that was in the pit of the risky.
Yeah, I mean, you have the pressure from on high and you have the pressure from the side. There's really nothing you can do against that team up on top. Now, let's move forward to another team, the God team, as they call themselves, Gonzo, Jared's, and I forget the last player's name right now, but still, that team had again another successful run at Lazy Lake, and they had a really successful W key all the way into the mid game. They found themselves on height with fifth zone, but then they fall short to Blue T and crew. A nice executed, maybe a snipe and then the glider gun to really solidify that, but they ended up fighting and challenging rather than just letting that Elim go, giving up height and actually playing for placement. Instead, taking the gamble against a team like Blue T, and it really cost them going forward. I think they were, what, 4th place? They ended up falling all the way down to that, which is difficult for them to come back from.
Yeah, I think NY Kote fell asleep on the job up there. Sleeping on the job, man. He was looking down, as was Gonzo and all of them. I think they were just like hyper focused on holding everyone out from the zone. Once that grappler came in and the rest of the team, I'm assuming they probably shockwaved up, or launchpadded in together as a squad with the grappler in combination, because they all of a sudden were swarmed by Blue T and the crew and company, and that was it. And they just got dropped, all of which lost their own individual battles. So no one to blame, but that means they were all with their guards down. I'm assuming, like I said, probably looking off in the wrong directions in that moment.
Yeah, and that's a team that's had quite a journey throughout this entire tournament. I mean, I mentioned it during the game, but 3 different teams contesting them. One off spawn was Blue T and crew, and then second game they had it uncontested, but then third another team came in, and then fourth a completely separate team came in. So Lazy Lake is having its share of fights and its fair share of contestation, but how does that actually affect the mental of this team going forward, or is that just making them more confident?
I think it's given them a lot of confidence. Same as Cero, Valor, and Foxen, these early game frags, they're holding them up at the top of the leaderboard. We know that's that free cushion that you can continue to snag, which is important in these kind of formats here where elims mean so much.
Yeah, and by the way, we're waiting for the players to get in so we can start the lobby, and I think we are getting confirmation that that's very, very close to happening, so bear with us as we get this game underway, because we've got 3 more games to go. We definitely don't want anybody to miss out on the opportunity to rise up the standings and rise up in this Battle of the Boroughs. Like I said at the beginning, it's an all-out brawl for a lot of different spaces, but I think Bizzle, Zexro, and Jaith have basically brought out the brass knuckles monster.
Yeah, they have the unfair advantage, man. I said it at the start. You got the most decorated, one of the most decorated Fortnite players, Bizzle, leading the brigade here, alongside someone like Zexro, and then Jaith. You know, these boys on Team Assault, they don't play, they don't miss, right? They're here to game. As we're gonna kick things off, it's game number 6, Bala, here at the Battle of the Boroughs. We're at the back half. This is it. Will Bizzle take the lead in full, or will they be able to close the gap out on someone else like Roat to Blue T and Bugsy here come up? Give them a run for the money.
Like I said, this is the opportunity for them to do that if they so desire, if they can actually pull it off. I shouldn't say desire. I mean, I guess they definitely want to do that. But it's an opportunity. We're looking again at that authority fight, and starting from the start this time. Then all of a sudden seeing them out on the outside, we see how this breaks down. This team, is there even I think they're on the west side of the authority right now. No, a couple close to that vault. Roats unfortunately gets beamed in the backside. I'm not sure if that was Jules or not, but he's in a little bit of a trouble because he doesn't have a shotgun. Bugsby and Blue T are working from the outside in, and Roat unfortunately has to spend some time to heal. This might actually go in the other direction, unfortunately.
I think he did finally get some minis there, though. Lucky for him, it seems like it just worked out that way. Looking at the feed, though, I see Foxen already kicking things up. That's 2 elims for Cero, Foxen and Valor. Pleasant Park, they are just kinging it. Jaith is also going to find himself an early knock as well. So someone giving Caddy's Corner some friction, finally, actually trying to run them out of it. I mean, not working, but someone's trying.
Yeah, explit. I can't even say that name because it does not look, it's not what it actually says. But regardless, that's the same team that fought them in game number 1. So I wonder if they're just back. They said, okay, enough of whatever we're doing. It's not working. We need to go back to what we actually like. And we don't care if Bizzle and crew are some of the best players in the game. We're going to give it a shot. So far, not working. We'll see if that elim feed lights up a little bit more for both sides. Zexro's low. He has a shockwave launcher. I think he does have Jaith to back him up, but he's very low. Bizzle by himself. Is there another player here? No, I don't think so, given the fact that they're standing still. I think Bizzle is getting pushed, though.
Yeah, just looking at the map, looks like Bizzle is in a defensive hold right now. Might be a player just outside this gas station. He's trying to figure it out, and yes, it is. He's one right above. So I think that's the squad that was landing at caddies, because I don't see any cursors over in the caddy areas. So they try to go for more of a 50-50 strategy. It's not going to work out. Biz is going to find the big dinks here. Now he's going to have to run away. Ethic's going to jump into the porta potty. Off he goes. No need to follow it, though. That's risky. But all right, Bizzle wants a piece of it. He's going straight in. He's not playing any games. Ethics is going to hit the crash pad. Love what happened there, though. Bizzle was already on the hunt, and Zexer was looking at what was going to unfold here. Back to Holly Hedges, though. Red X is just barely holding on to 20th place right now with the starving crew. And we know they've been having some success here against a Bossy, Cosmic, and Kai. Now it's like finally things are in the other favor because they don't have any shield this time.
They don't have the shield and they don't have the high ground, which is key in this fight. The last time we saw it, Bossy though gives up the high ground, and all of a sudden we have Joe potentially up above. No, sorry, that's Pump potentially up above, but quick changes again, and now there's in the box. They got the pinch. He's down for the first time. Bossy, Cosmics, and Kai have an advantage at the fight of Holly Hedges.
A little bit of a ammunition swap right there to help the teammate out, and now it's Kai versus Redux from Team Oxygen here. Redux on the defensive though. He's on the run. Whites are all going to tag him up. That's going to be the free knock for Kai here, and that's a crucial knock indeed, because remember, he doesn't have any shield, so he can basically get his health here. Now it's going to be another factor that's going to play in for them. And yes, finding the last player, Joe, there off on the side with no HP would be a quick cleanup. At least they get some shielding out of it, and the extended, or not to extend the fight for too long over at Holly, considering the zone's pushing all the way here to Authority. Team that is finally swinging back, though. Roat manages to bounce back. Crash pad's not going to be enough for them, though.
That was so nice by Blue T, Roat, and Bugsby. The crash pad to actually completely wipe that building up. And then even further, by the way, that team that contested them this time was a completely different entity. From the start, it was actually that team right there who just went down the feed to Sero and Korea, Bean and Togdoer, so they might have moved to Pleasant Park. The team that contested this time was a team that played risky in the previous game, so that plan slightly changed in this factor, and I think they might have realized, given the fact that they're not pushing up the risky very fast. They do clean it up, though. Here's another fight breaking out. And speaking of the fact that they went to Pleasant Park that time, means that Sero, Valor, and Crew have potentially 2 teams to fight, and if they win that, that's 6 elims plus probably the one they'll find on rotation. That might bring them to 9 before the game has even really started.
And I think they did secure it, because the first person I saw light up the feed was Fox, and already started off on the right footing with all the elims he needed. Crazy how Hawk just missed the silhouette perfectly left and right with a guy in the bush right in front of him. Kind of funny how that works out, but is what it is. Zapier is gonna manage to get away. Remember, he can't see the bush do some fluffling there, and yes, finally it's gonna give away where the player is as he breaks out into the open. Hawk and team have the decision to make now. Sit up on Frenzy Farm, surrounded by the enemies, or jump down on a player. The teammate is healing. Our decision is gonna be made soon. Off they go.
Yeah, but there's a full pinch, man. There's literally all these guys are having such great positioning on them. It's like they expected them to come straight out of this, and they're getting beamed even from the back. I don't even think they realize that he's still up on that red barn, and neither of them are really kind of blocking for that direction. Thankfully, just the happenstance of the builds does work on that. So now there's even one who gets very, very close. That's Glade. He's also in the haystack too. Ooh, but the pinch is kind of gone. Yeah, they're just kind of randomly shooting and firing it off. Meanwhile, Blue T down. He's in a fight with Immortality. We've seen them fight outside of the Authority multiple times, but usually it goes in the other favor. Here it is. Roat and them do trade damage. Blue T down, but there it is. Another elim, now forcing it into a 2v2. Roat, such a good, strong fighter in the mid game. Let's see if he can make this work. Blue T's not even getting rezzed right now.
I'm gonna say, we've seen this before. Bugsy comes in and clutches up, even if one goes down, but it doesn't matter. Rowan tries to go with the disrespectful axe play in the middle of the shotgun shot there, but it was not enough. Miscalculated. Now it's up to Bugsby to clutch up. He is gonna find the one. He's done it before. Can he do it again here? This is clutch for him, though, to max and cap on the material now. He's 200 HP. This is totally winnable for him, and he has plenty of seconds to go too, because the late thirst that came from the team. All right, here comes the crank, and now he's got the player boxed up. The charm through the gun now. He's going all the way in, and no, he's gonna get tagged too many times. An evasion comes out on top, so the clutch not in the favor of Bugsby this time around.
Oh, too quick. And they end up falling. The challengers who did take second place in the last game now unfortunately are down and out. It leaves Gonzo, Kote, and Jared, who were in fourth place before this game ended up starting, have the potential now to go forward. And the people who took them out last game are done and dusted. So if they get another good position in fifth zone, hopefully this time another team doesn't take advantage of a little bit of lapse in attention. Fed, Dean, and Dev, who've been so solid throughout this entire tournament, now rotating, but with the aggressive team behind them, yes, they will take the fight, and it will be a full build fight right now. They've got to win this, but with Stinks, it's so difficult and so frustrating to fight against. Even Nade's in the mix, but the other side boxes up.
It's the Bronx v Jersey right now for a battle of who can come out on top. And honestly, this looks like a fight for top 5. You think about how close these guys are in ranking to one another. All right, here it is. Big shot here from Dev, though. Looks for the control on the walls, and he's going to lose track of the opponent. Oh, for a second there, I thought he got behind him. That was the squad mate also who was confused in the battle, but the pinch here now, they've got him on the run. The edit was already made there, and Dev eats one huge there, but the floppers allow him to bounce back, giving him all the advantage here now. Ved, though, putting all the pressure in, making sure that Gonzo can't succeed here. You can see they're close in skill, is why this fight is being drawn out, but Kote is going to get taken out there. He's going to be the first to fall.
That means an advantage in 3 versus 2. And they will try to build up, but Ved is right on top of them. This is the first time we're seeing this team actually fight in the mid game, and so far so good. But there's some nades added to the mix. The cone is perfect. Ved gets him boxed up like a Christmas present, and he just has to wrap it up. Inside the other box it goes now. It's so confusing. And he's trying to keep track of him, but Jared's gets away, and now building in metal. They're going to try to follow up, but they get right back to each other. Ooh. Another big tag, 52. The pitches are perfect, and Jared's gets him. Ved finds it again, and now a 1 versus 3, and I think they're even fighting up on height. Yes, inside that box, one goes down, but they will be able to clean it up a phase through. Great fight from Ved, Dean, and Dev. Unbelievable stuff against a team of that caliber. And they show that it's not just placement that they can do, which makes me wonder why they haven't been fighting a little bit more, given the emphasis on elims.
Not only that, to do that against one of the teams that are quite literally in the running for top 3 right now was a pretty strong showing of what they can do once they get their gears going. Here's another grenade set up. We see it all the time, these hunts from Bizzle to look for teams that are just based up to take out. Tiburon there actually is gonna hit the crash pad.
Yeah, come on, man. You're from Queens. Hit that.
Did that last week too. Make sure I don't mess it up this time, you know. All right, though. I'm digging it though. Look, three important elims, right? Because we talk about if they really get going this time, there's no looking back. So they took out a team off the drop, and now if they find another 3 in the mid game here, this is going to be enough to propel them and propel the lead, where we know they can do it here. Good help from Bizzle now to help the drop come down so squad mates can get it, and they're so far apart. I wonder if they're going to launch pad towards him, though, or see if we can get out the shockwave launcher. We don't know who has it. Probably Jaith, though.
In the rolls, but it's Zexor who's running away, so he doesn't even have that. He does have peppers if he needs to, but I think opting to save them, although to be honest, I haven't even seen them use all the peppers throughout their games, no matter what. So surprised not to see him. Regardless, he gets away with his life and all of his HP. No, he finally gets a snipe in the back as he makes it back to his team, unfortunately. By the way, as this all has happened, they had so much space, so much control on this mountain. And because they've been focused on trying to get Zexor out from the little bit of trouble that he was in, another team is encroached up on their side in the northeast of this mountain.
We'll find out if that was the same squad that was there, or they're returning back to their shell of a base. Dev, though, He's gonna find another Elim onto Soul. So Dev and the Jersey team on fire right now, continuing to march through squads.
And they even have a pretty decent position on height. Still have materials too, so these fights that they're taking, the opportunities that they're pouncing on or have others pouncing on them, is not really costing them too much. Usually a team who's so placement oriented, if they do end up fighting, end up losing in terms of materials, mobility, and all of that, and their overall heals, because they're not necessarily used to it. But in this case, it's paying off for them in spades.
Six here, following the New Jersey team on the come up right now. Big rotates to be made though. This is gonna be pushing towards the most mountainous portion of the Fortnite world as it stands right now. Early positioning becomes more and more crucial. Launch pads for movement, more and more crucial. They do already have that. You can see the benefit of all the fights playing into their favor as far as the loadout goes. 400 plus mediums in Ved's loadout. Kind of vibing here. They can pressure down any squad if they wanted to. Really draw out fights. Ooh, the wall's gonna open up, revealing 3 players. Almost impossible to miss a snipe at that point.
What confidence though for him, not even to build after that. He's just like, yeah, I'm gonna take a snipe at all 3 of you guys, and I'm not gonna place a wall. You guys suck. That's basically what he's thinking right now. But on the backside, it's Agers, by the way, who hit a snipe while moving on somebody else ahead of them, but they've got a zone fight to play out as well. Ved's just going for no scopes at this point. Potentially hitting on backside. There they are. They're going to make their way up that mountain. The other player in that fight ended up just going back in his zone saying, nope, I don't want any of this. I'll take the 2 ticks and try to catch up later.
Hawk, though, up above is going to pause and try to lay down some shots, and he's going to get punished for it. So you get instantly melted by the 1-shot headshot right there. And it's going to convert on over. Another frag for them. Not that they need the material or anything other than the weapon upgrades, but still massive for the point threshold here. A team that's doing so good right now. 5 frags for Foxen, Zero, and Valor collectively as a team here now. They did find a pack of Marauders as well. 6 stinkers in the inventory. Remember, those are going to get better and better as the game goes on.
By the way, as we see that team get wiped by nades, look at the position of zone right now. It's 3rd. And directly in the center of it is where Bizzle and crew are. If you can see those pinkish arrows in the very, very center. That's where we last saw them, right? They were trying to control the space on this mountain. Obviously, with the fact that the zone comes, every team will push their way in no matter what, but could be really nice. Look at this position. Jaith up on high, and we see the 4th reveal. Obviously, the fact that they were center is good for them, but it actually pulls off of the mountain, right? Which gives them the highest spot no matter what on the zone, and nobody will be able to try to come from behind unless somebody really gets bold in this game.
That's a good call there, which means that they can just walk their way into whatever rotations they need because they have all the vision and really manipulate the lobby big time with that high ground there. Team that's gonna have to make a move though is Ved Dev over here on the backside. Not sure what they're doing. Oh, looks like they were getting themselves into another sticky situation with some players, but they don't have the time to stick around and take this fight. It's time to get on out of here. They're using the nice rotation around the outskirts here to break the line of sight. Granted, there's a squad firing down at them. The exit is going to be easy to predict here. There's only one way to go, but regardless, still good free rotate for them right now.
Might be free for now, but as they approach, there is a lot of old builds, so it should be okay. Even some refresh too. Significant refresh. Still brick and metal on the ground that his team can pick up. That's 300 of each. Wow. So that gives them all the tools they need in the end game if they might have been low at all. And then still, the only team in their way right now is Tiny Jelly and crew, and they will start to pressure them, but with the builds that they have, they'll be able to get in, and there it is. He's going to base up, another snipe. These guys are on the run and taking these shots left and right. I like it. That's definitely what I want to see going forward, and beams is taken, tries to fire up, but Deb was not even up there yet, and he will punish, and punish hard.
Nice little opener there. Nearly hits the snipe too. If that would have connected, it would have been game over for the trio right there. They do have to be careful though, Bala. Putting too much pressure, too much emphasis down on the fight down here can easily cause a lot to just spam spray all of them down. So this is a fight with a lot of risk considering how low they are elevation wise and how many players can see them on the back portion of the zone here.
I'm waiting for this fifth zone to reveal as Foxen does pick up another one. It's going to go all the way down, so that positional advantage that Bizzle and them had actually kind of completely goes in their disadvantage. It's a max distance zone from them, but also down the mountain, so a launch pad will be awkward, right? Because this mountain isn't even one of those steep drop-offs where you can just full launch and then dive. This one is a, you know, relatively smooth ramp down, so you can't necessarily do that. And even a short launch will keep you high up.
Take a look at this. They do have a launch pad, but they're going with a ground rotate instead, deciding that it's safer to just fully go horizontally across the bottom portion of the zone here. I mean, it's gonna work out though. They're gonna get here first and be able to at least protect the ramp, the tunnel that they created. Bizzle, Jaith, and Zextra though, inching their way forwards instead of launching off. Like you mentioned, it would be super awkward for them to go straight off. They recognize the risk of that, and they're trying to get down and off the elevation here. Other teams are launch padding though. If there's a time to go, it's now while everyone's in the air. And yes, they are going to take advantage of the distraction here now. Can they get a little bit of a dive down? Oh no, it's looking like Bizu cannot, so he is forced to float in the air. Yes, he does actually. I lied. Nice. Dave's building out. Oh no, Bizu almost caught himself, but it was still enough to get into it. Now high ground is theirs again.
Yeah, but they definitely took a lot of damage for that. Jaith, obviously the storm damage. Bizzle did not want to go all the way in. That's why he hesitated on trying to catch. They'll knock down the other side, but a couple tags again. They're wasting a lot of their heals, but does that even matter when they get their end game rolling? Do they even take damage on others? Jaith gets back in terms of HP as well, and more chug splashes too. This is the setup out of Caddy that just works so well for them time and time again. That vault loot is ridiculously good.
That was huge too. They're gonna pull the first moving zone here. You think about it, they traded 2 minis and 2 splashes to force that other squad to burn like 300 plus material, and now they don't have high ground. So it is not looking good for the squad that overbuilt after getting knocked down for whatever reason, trying to dominate the height, because now they have to cross right into Zextro, Bizzle, and Jaith again, and it's just looking like a repeat performance right now. They can obviously walk away with this right here. This is going to be hard to overcome. Valor is going to be the one in the air though, as he's going to get tagged down to whites. In comes the focus. One more tag is going to be enough, and no, he's going to touch down with Ciro and others. They are going to be safe here. There's Foxen, still safe and sound. Jaith now inching his way out, trying to connect the builds here. Yes, he is going to manage to do that. Still leading out across here. The shockwave across now, trying to land in front of the storm. Doesn't want to give anyone even opportunity to build up for height. Not at all. It's looking super good here now.
And every single time Jaith picks a target, it's one of the teams that he actually has to pressure, because I guess it's just easy to spot. The teams who are playing well will always be in the same positions time and time again. Bizzle finds 2. Jaith gets 1 as well. That's already 3 in this end game. And then potentially even more. Shots are connecting every single time they look out, and like I said, no damage taken on anybody. They're just going to continue to pressure down, just like we've seen game after game. If I've ever seen a more dominant performance in a grand finals situation, it's this one right here. I mean, we're looking at every single end game having a say. Jaith, Zexro, and Bizzle up on height. This is ridiculous stuff.
Down in the left there, you see a highlight of Foxen, who's still alive right now, tearing it up with 6 eliminations. So we're getting that dual perspective of what it looks like down in the low ground. He's no longer backed up here. He's by himself. On height, though, just running it. They have so much material, too. The victory lap for Jaith, Zexro, and Bizzle right now is they're running house here on the lobby. Jaith doesn't have any medium bullets, though. Let's not give them too much credit here. They are going to have to get down and into it. That is it right there. The last shot out of the gun. What's he gonna do now? Zexro in the same situation, has to go down, desperately looking for ammo. He is gonna find it. Up he comes though to back up his teammates. He still has a pepper too. He's gonna eat that. Why not? Use it.
Foxen finally goes down, by the way, that perspective gone, but they did so well to actually overtake on one of the teams, Blue Tea and crew, who are not here in this end game. That means that they might rise up in the second place. Zexro will put down Bry Guy instantly, even though they're from the same borough. He does not care. 4 eliminations now for Zexro and 11 for the entire team. Dev still up in this too, who has been clutching and was in 5th place before this game, has the opportunity to bring himself back up. It's a clutch situation for them to get the same placement time and time again, and they also got a bunch of elims this time too, so potential to rise way up. But Bizzle and crew look unstoppable at this point, unstoppable and uncatchable on so many different levels.
Yeah, they're done built up an unsurmountable lead for sure here. 11 eliminations for Bizzle, Zexro, and Jaith now. They're still continuing to push on through the squad that's on focus here. But wait a second, Bizzle gets edited down, and now he gets hit with the trap door. So Bizzle is out of the game. Pressure's on. Jaith still hasn't picked up the refresher from his teammates, and he only has a charged shotgun on height. Zexro needs to hook him up, or this is not going to be... It's not going to end well. He really doesn't have much to defend himself with other than a shockwave launcher to send someone out the zone and this charge pump.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see them not building up, or at least going down to Zexro and giving him some AR, because this would be pressure right now. Jericho is fragging out. Meantime, there does sneak a shockwave in, and he put 2 players out. Yes, Jericho and Dom are now looking pretty much doomed in zone, though Dom looks like he has some sort of floppers or something else. He also takes out Spark G.
No, another one.
2 go out. Literally so difficult for them, and maybe that decision was perfect. They don't want to build too much so that they can actually do this, and Zexro will drop down and clean up the last remaining players, although still Dom in zone. He has floppers to play with. He's up on height right now, and RPG gets hit. Jaith is down, but Zexro does not care. He's there to back him up when the going gets tough. And there's another win. That's 3 for Zexro, Bizzle, and Jaith.
This time it's a back-to-back for the boys right there, picking up 13 eliminations. It was looking kind of dicey though. We knew Jaith was in a, peculiar situation with no ammunition and only depend on the shockwave launcher, but he sent like 4 or 6 players towards the end there, flying into the zone, none of which converted, but either way, still gave him the free victory.
Yeah, they didn't convert, but they converted on somebody else, right? He didn't get the elimination credit, but who cares when you get the Victory Royale credit, right? So that's all that matters for them. And I'm still wondering that decision, why Zexro was not like building up to Jaith, or why Jaith was not building down to Zexro so they could get the medium ammo to each other. But it actually works out, because those RPGs started coming in and it knocked them down. They needed that extra protection and safety net, essentially, before they ended up falling. Because if they both fell at the same time, it would have been rough for them to recapture any sort of control in that game. But they do it again, Monster, and I think that might have been a victory lap. I mean, when we look at the standings, it might actually be over 200 points, which would pretty much secure it, even though we have 2 games left.
Yeah, and I think what that shows is they didn't feel the urgency, right? They felt very much in control at the end there, where we're looking for the outside in, like, dude, you need mediums. They're, Zexro's like, nah, I got this, right? And then Jace just chilling up there like, hey, we're walking our way to endgame, quite literally. You need Zexro, and Bizzle had it in the bag. Bizzle falling, though, did raise the stakes a little bit for the squad on height, but for what it's worth, they did. I think they did do the victory lap. So we're going to be watching the Bizzle, Zexro, Jace show for the next couple games, so that might be all right.
Yeah, I mean, to think about everybody else, basically, that was the only team to actually rise up in the standings still, while everybody else kind of fell, except maybe Foxen and crew, who might have overtaken East Side from Brooklyn. But regardless, guys, 2 more games is what we have left, and it has been a journey from start to finish, and that last game was aggressive, the most aggressive we've seen in this entire time. Regardless, it's still Bizzle, Zexro, and Jaith who stay up above. Can anyone challenge? I don't think so, but we're still looking for the second place. Stay with us. We got 2 more games.